Welcome to this week's episode of Local Threads. This week, I'm sitting down with someone who has spent their career at the intersection of art, education, and community, Paul Willis. Paul is an author, a hip-hop artist, a mentor, a community builder, a super connector, a teacher, and a values-driven, salt-of-the-earth human being. I could go on, and I'm sure if you haven't encountered Paul, you could as well. So let's just get into the episode. First, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And before we get into your book, I just want to say I learned a lot from it.
Thank you.
Especially the Hip Hop Congress. Why don't I know about that?
That's a thing.
Yeah.
I agree. I feel like more people should know.
Yeah, especially because it's recognized with the UN. Also, the Black Bill of Rights. Never heard of it.
Right.
And it makes so much sense.
It does. We were having those conversations in, 2019, 2020, and like, look at us now and where we're at. And it's like,
regressed.
Yeah.
Completely.
Yeah.
The book comes with a companion album. I was listening to it this morning, and I have ADHD, and I rarely can listen to something in full. No skips. That's something that I was able to do today. And then when I recognized Bruja the villain at the end, because I just talked to her, and I watch her on social media, so I know her voice, and I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
It kind of made me emotional for a second because there's so much creativity in this area, and it doesn't get recognized.
Right.
And it just reminds me, this is why I'm doing this, especially as an outsider that moved here. I get to meet and talk with all of you and, go into these spaces. And I think it's so underrated just to be someone who goes to enjoy. You don't have to go and I don't have to go and learn hip hop, you know, but I enjoy hip hop. I always have. And I enjoy poetry. And it's okay to just go there and support.
Exactly.
And I think people forget that.
Yep.
And it's frustrating to me.
Yeah, I think everybody wants to be the one.
Yeah.
Like the star on the stage, the person with the massive team and all this stuff. And you lose sight of just appreciating the people around you and experiences that you have. Can't tell you how many times, even in just the past 2 years, where my friends have asked me, hey, can you run sound for my show? Can you be the production manager for my show? Can you support me in all of these other kind of facets? And I'm happy to do it for my friends because I see what they're putting into the world, and it's more positivity. It's more music that uplifts, more music that heals, et cetera. And so, I think for folks to create the city and the region and the spaces that we want to be in, it's important to put in that kind of effort, not just as the talent, but also as the fan and the supporter.
For sure. Where are you from? What part of town?
Born and raised in Jamacia Plain, which is, for people who may not know, like right in the middle of Boston. My neighborhood growing up was predominantly like Puerto Rican, Dominican, Cuban. We were one of maybe 2, maybe 3 Jamaican families, like in our 2 to 3 block radius. And my specific section of Jamacia Plain I grew up in was maybe 2 blocks outside of what was then the Heath Street projects. It's now like the Mildred Taylor homes or something like that. And maybe a block, train station away from Stony Brook. We were Jackson Square area. And so what's over there now, Hyde Square Task Force, I think is one of those organizations that people know a lot about. There's Mozart Park, where there's a lot of cultural celebrations and things that happen over there. And so, it was really kind of Caribbean, cultural environment growing up there. And
that's not something people know about Boston.
Right.
And maybe it's coming from me because I'm coming from the white lens, right? But I also never thought about Boston, to be fair.
Yeah.
But the more I get to know people and see all of the culture here, it's here and it's deep, and I love it.
I go weeks without seeing white people.
Like, if you do any kind of editing and B-roll in Boston, it just looks like an empty city, too.
Yeah, but when you go into the neighborhoods, a feel is different. Especially the neighborhoods that are like inner city neighborhoods. When you go to
Yeah.
Roxbury or Dorchester, Mattapan, Jamaica Plain, South End even, right? The feel is just way different. And there's so much more history that's there that people don't know and realize.
Yeah.
In Jamaica Plain, you know, back in like the 30s was a predominantly Jewish neighborhood, right? When my grandmother moved there in the 50s, it was still kind of like that, but there was this transitioning that was happening. My grandmother bought her house and had to get her supervisor from the hospital to come and co-sign for her because they didn't believe that a Jamaican woman was college educated, was also working at the hospitals and had enough money to like purchase a home, right? And so her supervisor came, was like, no, she works for us. You know, I'm a co-sign on this thing, but like y'all need to get it together. Yeah, and when you talk to a bunch of my neighbors growing up, so many, you know, immigrants who came to the country or second generation, first generation folks who came who owned a lot of the property there from the 50s, 60s, 70s and on. And so, you know, you come to that like quarter mile between Jackson Square and the Whole Foods. And Whole Foods used to be a high-low, an international food store. And maybe 8 to 10 years ago or so, there was a change of ownership. But the community rallied to make sure that there were certain folks who were longtime employees of the international food store, like kept their jobs and were able to stay employed and stay on with Whole Foods. So yeah, there's a lot of that kind of togetherness, community organizing, and sauce that's like right there in that neighborhood. So it was pretty cool to grow up around.
I grew up born and raised here, and I love that you put in your book, which is called Hip Hop Leadership, that you started writing when you were like 5.
Yeah, it's like a creative writer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to write about everything because I was such an avid reader.
What were you reading?
Everything I get my hands on.
Were
You know, early on, it was like a lot of like phonics lessons, Frog and Toad type books.
Oh, yeah.
Cat in the Hat, right? I think as I got into elementary school and I realized, you know, my grandma, when she would run errands, she had me on a leash so I wouldn't run into the street. It's one of those like active kids. But when you put me in a library, right, I took all that energy and became a competitive reader, which is, that's like a strange quality, I think, to have in a child. But it was something that, you know, I was just super juiced about. And so I'd be in the library for hours after school and things like that. The library had a summer reading contest. And so the summers were like super lit. The winner of that contest would get tickets to Fenway Park at the end of the summer.
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
so we go see like a game maybe before the playoffs started or on that kind of thing.
So you won.
Yeah. No, it was like I had an older brother who was a year older than me and a little sister who was like a year younger than me. I have 2 other sisters who are like 10 years, you know, older. So a lot of times they were like our caretakers, you know, and babysitters. And then there's my little brother who's like 6 years younger, but the age I'm talking about, he wasn't around for a lot of this. But they had the summer reading contest. And so it'd be me, my brother, my sister, and we'd be locked in the library and we would just be reading everything. Animorphs, Babysitter's Club, Tom and Hardy, the Choose Your Own Adventure books.
Yeah.
I got into Redwall, you know, and that entire series by Brian Jacques, and so many other just amazing, amazing books. I read over 300 books that summer. Yeah, I think my brother read like close to 150, and my little sister read over 100 books. And like the next closest child was like 10. like it wasn't even,
Y'all
you
didn't
know,
have to go that hard.
no. And so the library was like, okay, cool. You know what? Since y'all are just so far ahead of the entire pack, we're going to get you like a family pack of
cool.
tickets to like go to Fenway together. And they still have photos of us in Fenway Park.
So awesome.
Yeah, you see my big sister there, like not caring about baseball at all, more worried about her nails or whatever. And I'm sitting there and I'm locked in on the game. Yeah, it was cool.
Do you like baseball?
I grew up appreciating it a lot. I used to play like in the neighborhood, stickball, get out in the street. My grandma had a backyard. You know, it wasn't a big property, maybe just like a quarter acre, but it was enough for me to like swing a wiffle ball bat until I cracked a window.
Yeah.
hitting a tennis ball straight through it. And she's like, yeah, you got to take that to the park. I didn't have the money to join any of the like competitive teams or anything like that. But yeah, I've always appreciated the game. But I was an outside kid.
Yeah.
You know, like I had a skateboard, played basketball, we played
I miss that
football,
feeling
all that stuff.
of just like being outside.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
you can't get me outside.
I hear you. If it, like when I'm not working and doing
Yeah.
like artist and creative stuff, I am in the house.
Yeah.
People don't like they think, oh, you're an extrovert or you're around all these people. You're going. I'm like, yeah, but I love my inside time.
Yeah.
When I can get it.
I love it.
Yeah.
But also the nostalgia feeling of being outside, being
yeah.
with your friends, not having phones, not even existing.
Right.
I miss that feeling.
Right.
And that also, whenever I was reading your book and you're talking about adaptability and going from analog to digital,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just like, I think millennials are top tier when it comes to adaptability.
Look at all the change that we've seen.
Yeah, it's crazy. And now trying to learn something in your 40s is hard, like what I'm doing right now. But that's where the resilience part comes in.
Mm-hmm.
And your book really helped remind me, like, you have to just keep going.
Yeah.
And trying, and you'll get it.
Yeah. There's a resourcefulness in hip hop culture. I think that's a thing that also stems out of Black culture too, right? Yeah. Of like, we didn't have a lot. So much was stripped away. So much was taken away. And so in creating all of the things that we are creating, we're making a way out of no way, right? And so when we have the opportunity to even have a little bit of resources, the things that we can do with that, right, is pretty special. And, you know, you see it in food and clothes and, you know, music, et cetera, right? Even just the taking of, you know, old records, right, and flipping them with whatever technology, right? We didn't have, you know, drums and music instruments. And so the beat machine replaced a lot of that. Samplers replaced a lot of that. And flipping that stuff and creating something brand new out of it is, you know, incredibly important. But a lot of that mindset of we're not going to stop creating, we're not going to stop trying to transform or to better ourselves. I think that's the unsaid part of our culture.
And it's unfortunate because it is American culture.
Mm-hmm.
It is the food we eat, the music we listen to, the clothes we wear, has all started from Black culture.
Yeah.
And I love that Sinners is being recognized in the way it is because there's so many layers of stories and experiences within that movie. And when I was reading your book, I'm like realizing, you know, it's interesting. The storytellers of hip hop really, I watched this video on YouTube and it was trying to correlate whenever hip hop gets really good, things are bad.
Yeah.
And like you see that with Kendrick Lamar, and like They're Not Like Us, and what was that was the Super Bowl, right? Yeah.
But the We Gonna Be All Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that whole kind of movement during that time when that song was released. I think that hip hop as a response to political movements, to oppression, right? It's a form of resistance. And
that culture runs so deep. The history is so deep.
Yeah. And the fact that the you know, the art form is the most intelligent music genre, and it's simply based on how many words people are using. And so the ability to express oneself and to have so much room in 3 minutes, 4 minutes of a record to be able to say the things that you need to say, different than like a pop artist, right, who's singing melodies and singing them beautifully and connecting with people emotionally, etc. There's something different when, you know, your pop song has a 3rd grade reading level and is resonating with people around the world versus this song that's got a strong political message or is sharing about this authentic cultural experience. There's just so much more opportunity there to say the things that need to be said. And it's not that you can't have that in other genres, you can, but there's more to say.
Yeah.
And so the nuance is different, and the ability to be seen and recognized for your experience is different. And so, yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
You know, whoever it was that said that, I feel like I might have seen that at some point, that video
Yeah.
too. But yeah,
It's probably been done about 5 times because, that's how YouTube is.
Yeah.
Oh, you did it. Let me do it now.
yeah. But I absolutely agree with that sentiment and
Yeah.
belief that, when things are tough in the world, people are looking for answers, and that's where you can find it.
And that's why I love Sinners so much, because that one scene where it's like just that nod to like the ancestry. It was so good. Never expected it to be a vampire movie.
No, not at all.
Because I didn't watch a trailer. I went in blind. And the whole time, I mean, I knew who Michael B. Jordan was, but I was like, he's a twin? No, he's not a twin.
He's not.
But it looked like,
Yeah.
like he was. I mean, there's been other shows that have done that, but he did such a good job.
The movie magic and the brilliance of Ryan Coogler is incredible.
Yeah.
And to think that, he's still relatively new,
Yeah.
right, in his career. He's had a few movies that have been wildly successful, but he's just getting started.
I know.
And
I'm
it
so
already
excited
feels
for
like he's
that.
like Spielberg or what's that other guy, Michael Bay, like making these really big monumental movies and moments. And so that's pretty special. Ryan Coogler is also from Oakland, in the Bay Area, and they have a whole other kind of set of stories to tell.
So take me from how you left Boston and where you went after that.
Yeah, I was in college and taking a full course load, 5-6 classes, tutoring at the local middle school, coaching a basketball team, running the intramural sports program, for a local middle school on campus, and just like working 3 jobs in athletics. I was doing way too much.
Yeah.
And I had a college professor tell me, if you think that you need some time to either save some money or figure things out, like college will always be here, but you are serving your community now, and you don't necessarily need a degree to go and do some of the things that you're doing, like you're doing it now. So just take the time, really figure out what it is that you want and how you might want to finish, eventually, and then just go and do that. And so he told me about an organization called City Year, which I was kind of familiar with because I had City Year at my school when I was in the 4th or 5th grade at the Hennigan Elementary. And rediscovering the organization and seeing that they were working with young folks around social justice issues, that they were tutoring kids across the city, it was like exactly the thing that I needed to be doing. And we got these AmeriCorps educational awards at the end. That was maybe like $5,000 or $5,500 at the time that we could put towards our college education and stuff like that. And that type of money, I was like, okay, if I do a year of this, even if I do 2 years of this, this will give me enough of that cushion where I don't have to work so many jobs just trying to keep up. My mom was living on like $600 on a Social Security check. Like we didn't have anything, you know what I mean? And so, I'd get to campus in the fall and I'd be 3, 4, 5 weeks behind because I'd have to work to earn the money to buy my books to then catch up with everybody else. And so taking the time away was an
And that
important.
was a professor that said that?
Yeah.
To have somebody that was that, like, I don't know, nice to even care and be truthful with you.
To be fair, he was also different, like, than every other professor. Like, Holy Cross, Catholic college, kind of 3,000 kids, like small to medium size. But this guy was Puerto Rican, from the Bronx, degrees from Columbia and Yale, played Lupe Fiasco in class.
Oh, cool.
Like, he was different and
Yeah.
came from a different kind of mindset and frame. And that class was called Education for Social and Political Change. And so we talked about like real issues and things that were happening in our society. It's my first time reading Jeffrey Canada's. It was like a whole bunch of stuff that we really got into. And so he and I developed a close relationship And because he was one of the few people on campus who even recognized me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my advisor my freshman year told me, oh, if you're not a chemistry student, I don't know how to help you. I can't give you advice. Like, why did they even send kids like you to me?
Mm-hmm.
I never saw another advisor after that at all.
Yeah.
I just like went through, you know what I mean?
That was pointless.
Like almost 3.5 years of my college experience without any guidance from any adult or professor or dean at all.
And that's the normal experience because I didn't have any. I mean, I did all my university online.
They just will let you go, and if you fall through the cracks, then you fall through the cracks, right? I think the norm is that you have people who support you, will help you figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't have that.
Yeah.
Like the environment I came from and the people around me. My older sisters, had gone to college, but I didn't get to like see that up close. Like I knew that they went away for school, but I didn't get to see like, oh, this is a college campus. This is navigating a system. That's how you register for classes. Like they were doing that completely separate. And so I think sometimes people feel like, if you have the social capital, then you don't need as many of the resources from the school. But for kids like me, we just didn't have access, or we just didn't get the information.
I think too, a lot of people, and I want to take it back to being a millennial because, well, maybe this is just a societal problem.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know to ask, then they assume that you already know, which is so annoying.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, I don't actually know.
And I think that's one of the things that I learned by working with youth, that you really can't assume anything.
No.
You really can't assume that they know anything at all. And so constantly having to provide context for why certain things happened or how decisions get made and demystifying the process. I'm working with a student now, and, I teach a creative economy class in Lowell right now. And one of my students is a young kind of emerging producer, and he's learning some of the basic skills. We were able to set up an internship with him at So Ripe Studios to get paired with one of the engineers to really dive deeper into production, to learn how a studio runs, how to work with clients, et cetera, et cetera. And before his first day, I'm like, okay, what questions you have? Like, I had a lesson plan, but let's pause and let's figure out how you can feel comfortable and knowledgeable about walking into this situation.
Yeah, because that is very intimidating.
Yeah. And so then, explaining everything from like, where's the door to like, what's the layout of the space? Who are the people in the space? What experience level people are at, right? And like all of this stuff to just demystify it for him, make him feel comfortable. And then he texted me and he was like, oh my gosh, I had such a great day. I learned this, we did this. And, and so he's having a really positive experience with that internship. But it's the kind of thing where you realize like, oh, if I didn't pause to just have this moment of like, what do you think you know about this? And what do you don't know? What are you worried about? And really kind of go deeper with him in that way. Then he maybe wouldn't feel as comfortable, right? Yeah. It might feel too new, or he might feel too intimidated to walk into that situation.
And that is something that you do by one-on-one or with a class?
Yeah. Well, I teach a class, but with that student, I was a one-on-one kind of conversation. But that's what I try to do with young folks in general.
Yeah.
And so where I'm teaching, or if it's a one-off class or like a semester-long thing, my approach is I have information to share, but in order for this information to be relevant, right, we have to center this knowledge within your experience, right? So where you're at is where I have to come and meet you and then potentially like fill in the gaps, right? And so if you've never had conversations about authenticity, right, and what it means to establish your voice, like we have to go and do that. Before we could talk about world building and concept development and all this other kind of stuff, to be a professional artist, we have to figure out who you are, and so filling in some of those gaps and then bringing them along and then sharing the information that was there to teach is an important thing. And so it's teaching and it's also mentorship.
Yeah, I need one.
I hear you.
I mean, honestly, if we had people that would just meet us where we're at instead of being like, when you bring up authenticity, I highlighted something because
Oh, nice.
Everybody wants everybody to be authentic,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't get recognized for being authentic
Right.
until something goes wrong. And that's what you said. We only hear about the times when keeping it real goes wrong and never the times when someone was consistent in their beliefs, actions, and values and the difference they made in their community. That hit because it's so true. I see people out here doing such good stuff and they're not being given the opportunities, which ties to the song that was on your album.
Yeah, we take it for granted that people are doing the things that they should be doing and are like expected to do and are consistent in that.
And aren't giving up because it's so easy to give up whenever you are not being recognized or you feel like you're, well, let's be honest, all of this can be really expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Just even simple things, just trying to invest in yourself, it's expensive. So
and when you refuse to take shortcuts or refuse to do it illegally or refuse to do it, you know what I mean? Like, then it's even harder, right? Because you're taking for some people, it might be a moral stand. For others, and this is the way I like to think about it, it's a values-based stand.
Yeah.
Right? And so, if you don't, if something goes against your personal beliefs, but it would make it easier for you professionally or make it easier for you, to get, certain kinds of opportunities.
It's so easy to be a sellout.
Right. And to compromise yourself. Yeah.
So easy.
Yeah. And so I think, when people are saying, you know what, I'm not going to compromise my beliefs. I'm not going to do things that are outside of my character. And I'm going to show up and accept what's meant for me to accept, right? It completely changes also the dynamic of power in those relationships and opportunities. You also feel, or what people have felt in those opportunities when they make those kinds of stands is that they are valued and appreciated more for who they are and for being themselves than having to hide or pretend or even mask.
But it takes a long time for people to find you.
Yeah, it does. But then the right people find you.
Yeah, and it's so much better to have that quality connections. And somebody said to me yesterday, rejection is protection. And
one of my students said it in class. And then I was like, can I make that the hook?
Yeah.
Please?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so true. And I also, one of the lines in one of the songs was, there's no lack of creativity. It's opportunity. And that's so true. That's so, like, especially in this area, there's just so much creativity. And it's like, how do we uplift those people?
I don't lack talent, just opportunity. You don't lack talent, just opportunity. The world, we don't lack talent. It's just the opportunity. And we see it, right? Like, there's very few people who hold power, right, who are in these decision-making positions. And
doing dumb things, doing the most.
Absolutely. And so I think, the more we can uplift, talented people who, again, are values-based, principled in that way, and who have, I think, this really like collective and community mindset versus the individualistic, let me just get me and get mine.
Because that's the thing that is America's downfall right now is the individualism. It's stupid. Yeah,
we argue that's been the problem from the very beginning.
Exactly. We were built on it.
Yeah. And so it's a tough, I think, seed to uproot, because it challenges our very kind of way of life and being and thinking and the way that systems get built.
Yeah.
Like, sure that there are like things that are written down.
Yeah.
And those laws or those policies, sure, can be changed. The rules of the game can be changed. But it's the unwritten stuff that actually kind of worries me a little bit more about how power moves, how people get influenced, et cetera.
Yeah.
And that has some to do with the things that are written down, but a lot more to do with like, what are we willing to accept?
Yeah.
Like if people are willing to accept that success only looks like this, or that leadership only looks like this,
Yeah.
then we lose the ability to expand what's possible for ourselves in our reality, that we live in.
Yeah.
And so I think when we can accept, new voices, perspectives, right, and really kind of listen and learn from each other about what we really need to be a better kind of country, I'll just say it like, then I think that we'll realize that there's actually way more that we agree on than we actually disagree on.
Yeah.
And I think that, there are all sorts of issues. Like we all want education, right? We all want healthcare. We all want meaningful, purposeful employment, right? We all want opportunities for our youth, right? There are so many things that we can agree on, but we don't start from a place of, well, let's ensure that we have the things that we agree on, And so even just the framing of it, of like, we're not going to start from that place of agreement. We're starting a lot of the political and policy conversations around points of disagreement. It gets really hard to get anything done. You have people shouting at each other, not being collaborative, and government that shuts down. It doesn't work for the people. Yeah. So, it's a bigger conversation, but I think when you bring that back to hip hop, that whole conversation, it's the same kind of thing. When you step in a cypher and somebody's like, I'm not gonna stand in the circle, I'm gonna stand in the middle. And I'm gonna make this about me. Like this is me time, my perform, and that kind of thing. Everybody's looking at them like, what are you doing? It's a collective experience. And it's not just about rappers. The same thing happens in the dance community too, right? If you're not sharing space, stepping up and stepping back and allowing others to do their thing, the dancers will look at you like, yo, that's kind of crazy.
Are there dance battles that happen around here?
Yeah. The dance community is insane in Boston.
Oh my God.
Did you know that El Nino, right, who's the president of the Floor Lords, like a breakdance crew that's been around since like before hip hop. They were breakdancing in Faneuil Hall, earning $200 to $300 a day back in the early 80s.
What?
And they're still like teaching like generations and generations of kids now.
This is what I mean about this area.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I want to go to a cypher. Where do I go?
Oh, yeah. No, I'll definitely tap you in. Megatron with El Nino and just like that whole crew of people. Stiggity Stacks.
Getting into and just seeing people in their element and in their vibe and seeing how they work. And like I said, I can't dance no more. I'm
that's
in
not
my
even
40s. But
even just showing up and being a part of that community, I think you would really actually enjoy the Cypher for Change. The homies, Christina, Dom, and a few other folks will organize that.
Yeah.
But those are opportunities where, it's like a free show. They accept donations, not just like money, but also like physical goods and items to be able to share with people in the community, who are in need. And so, there's a whole kind of community and culture around dance in the city. And El Nino represented us at the Olympics. I think he was like one of the alternates for the breakdance competition. Really? Yeah, at the last Olympics.
I hate that Australia sucked all the wind out of breakdancing.
Yeah.
What the hell was that?
I don't know.
That was weird.
But
that made me uncomfortable.
That's also more the thing about like what are the things that can divide us or like are different, whatever, as opposed to focusing on like the people who are exceptional.
Yeah.
Right? Because the story should have been about the winners and all of the different like individual kind of stories and how those teams even came together.
Or why they'd even decided to add it. Like, how do you even get something like that added to the Olympics?
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah.
But, breakdance, and really it's like hip-hop dance as a category.
Yeah.
Is one of the few things that unites everybody from around the world because hip-hop is such a global culture. I attended an event. It's funny because it was held in a car dealership in Sacramento because they had the nice floors.
Yeah.
Right? And I wouldn't have thought of that.
No.
But they thought of everything. And they hosted breakdance teams and dance teams from 16 different countries from around the world.
What? In a car
and so
dealership?
I met Russians, Chinese, Spanish, Germans, like all these people from all these different countries and places around the world who
Yeah.
met in his car dealership. That was in a neighborhood like Dorchester.
Yeah,
It'd be,
I love stuff like that because when I was watching your YouTube, there was like a specific place. I don't know where
Mhm.
you guys were, but it was like a brick room and it was low
Mhm.
lit and people were performing and you were performing and I'm like, I want to go to stuff like that.
Yeah,
Stuff that people don't necessarily all know about.
yeah. That might have been the Verb Flow Vision
Yeah.
open mic in Chelsea.
Okay.
Yeah, and that special place, but also that event has a different kind of energy. It's real
Yeah.
special in terms of all the poets and all the talent
Yeah.
that is there. Yeah, they were killing it and doing their thing. Shout out to Devra who organizes that event. But yeah, I think it's like if it's not a monthly, it's like every other month.
Yeah.
That event happens
Oh,
out
I'm
there in
excited
Chelsea.
to find out about a new subculture. That's
Yeah.
there because
Yeah.
I just heard found out last year there's a circus school and like there's clowns too.
Mhm.
I'm like, this is
Yeah.
cool.
It gets deep. It gets deep.
Yeah.
The dance community like has its own kind of offshoots, right?
Yeah.
There's like a whole kind of acrobatic aerial circus type community
Yeah.
that exists. There are tap dancers here with
Yeah.
their own kind of deep and rich history too. But yeah, there's like all of these different kind of groups.
Yeah.
You look at the producers and the beat makers here; they have their own, environment and spaces that they exist in. Shout out to Pierre Moore, Ikebana with Restoring the Feeling and their Field Notes events. Those are spaces that really kind of center the beat maker, the producer, and
People they often get overlooked.
yeah. And so them coming in, playing their music, telling their stories.
Mhm.
And of course, that's also a space where MCs will find their way, as they should,
Yeah.
right? But it's rare that you see all of these different kind of worlds come together to form like the Voltron. And I know I'm dating myself with that reference, but the Voltron of like events, right?
Yeah.
The one time that I saw that kind of happen, the Cambridge Hip Hop Collective hosted an event called the Bridgeside Cypher, and they partnered with Stiggity Stacks and the Floor Lords and a few other folks from the dance community, and they came to do like a mega cypher and like dance competition at City Hall Plaza.
Oh, wow.
And so they had, easily over 250, maybe 300 people come out to this thing. And it was like, at a speaker and a DJ booth with multiple DJs. You had the dancers getting down on the floor that they brought in. And then you'd have MCs kind of rocking the mic or freestyling, and it was one of those few like hip hop environments
still
where
have
all
them?
the elements were represented. Well, all of the ciphers happen separately now, right? So, and generally speaking, they like are organized separately.
Yeah.
But every once in a while, like you'll
They'll
see
get
people
together.
come together to do something, but it's not often. And I wish it was more, frequent.
It's out in the universe now, so maybe
Yeah.
it will happen.
Yeah, the Bridgeside Cypher, they started in the spring and they organize events kind of every other week, all the way out to the fall.
Yeah.
I know the dance community, because they're inside at studios and other spaces, they're kind of moving year round.
I
And
low key want to learn to dance better.
oh yeah, no, we can like introduce you to some folks.
Okay.
Yeah, there's some incredible teachers. There's Ice, the style specialist, who's a dancer, graphic designer, fashionista, like all of these things.
Oh, I love
She's an
that.
incredible like artist, teacher, dancer, all of that. And there's so many other folks,
Yeah.
who are part of that community.
Well, let me take it back to how you got to Sacramento.
I left college. I started working for an organization here called City Year. They're an AmeriCorps program focused on, tutoring kids in reading, writing, math, etc., helping improve their attendance, their behavior, and their course performance in those subjects. We went out to Sacramento to essentially start up the Sacramento chapter of the organization. And there's, mind you, maybe 30 plus of these organizations around the United States. And then there's a few international sites as well that aren't technically AmeriCorps, but they're their own thing in those countries like Johannesburg, South Africa, and London in the UK. But we started the Sacramento chapter, and that's what brought me there.
Okay.
was that opportunity. And I thought, oh, I might be here for startup and then I might come back home. But that startup experience then transitioned to a staff like job and role. And then I was like full on employment, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Out there in Sacramento, moved on from city air to a few other roles in like education and then leadership development specifically. And yeah, there was a point in time where I was like, I need to be working for myself. I have all this experience, and what I kind of recognized was that the things I learned about how to teach modalities of learning weren't connected to the activist language and social justice language that I was getting in community and in, activist and political circles. That also wasn't connected to like professional development or management training or any of this kind of leadership development stuff that we're seeing for like nonprofit professionals or mid-career professionals. And I just thought that there was this interesting intersection that I was living in.
Yeah.
I was like, that's where I need to be operating my business.
That's where the idea came from, was when you were living there.
Yeah.
And this whole time you're
bridging
writing,
those worlds.
You're recording from early age, which I love that you wrote that your first rap name was Hypotenuse.
Hypotenuse. Yeah, the longest side of a right triangle.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were nerds. We were nerds in middle school, and we loved it. And we picked all of our names out of textbooks. It was great. Yeah.
That's awesome. And so you're writing albums as well while you're doing these nonprofit things.
Yeah. And for the longest time, people, I had a supervisor tell me, I don't know if you should release that album, or I don't know if you should continue working, as an artist, because we think it might be taken away from what you do here, at the nonprofit. And they didn't realize that like one hand was washing the other. Yeah. There were things that I could do.
Even telling someone you can't do anything else besides work here. And so even if it's a hobby, like you should probably stop doing that.
That's how I took it. And I was like, this is wild.
Yeah.
And even with when folks have their hobbies, like sometimes it really is disconnected from their work.
Yeah.
But when I would perform, people would see me at, open mics or shows or just benefit things that we were doing around the city. Would say, oh, I heard you do that song about your students. What do they need for support? Can we, do a food drive? Can we get them winter coats? Do they need field trip money? Do they need mentors? Can we come and speak on campus? And so like I would be organizing resources after performances to then come and support the work directly that was happening on campus, which then also like built even more support, right? Than like people around the school and around the school district were like, wait a minute, like you're doing this thing with your artistry and you're using it for our benefit. Like, can we collaborate? Can we do a little bit more? And so there were cross-site things that were happening and all this stuff, but there were some people who just didn't see the value in that necessarily. Yeah. And what I realized was that this whole kind of world that I was building for myself outside of work, it could continue to sustain me and help elevate me if I continue to do it. If I drop it and take their advice, then, I actually be in a worse off position. If I just keep going, then, maybe they'll come along in the long term to see, how this really kind of came together. And, it's interesting because also like there was no blueprint for this stuff, right? Like we know KRS-One as the teacher, but like we don't see KRS-One work on a daily basis. And so there wasn't a hip hop school. There weren't, you know what I mean? Like there were maybe some teachers who were using lyrics or artists as part of lessons and lesson plans, but there wasn't like a framework around this stuff. And, I think in the past 10 to 15 years, a lot of those people who are interested in hip hop education started finding each other through social media, started connecting, sharing techniques and stories. I met Martha Diaz, who was a producer for Yo MTV Raps back in the day. And when MTV didn't want to invest in Yo MTV Raps to go global, and tell the global hip hop story, and that was, early 90s, she decided to get into the classroom, and she had all this media, that she would bring in, to her students, and they would work on projects, do archiving, educational work. And she hosted one of the first hip hop education conferences in New York in the early 90s. And so she's been doing this work for a long time. And meeting her and recognizing the scale of what was happening really kind of blew my mind.
Yeah.
Meeting Ramen Jamal from the Hip Hop Congress, right? And hearing that there's this network of international, almost like nonprofit entities that are preserving hip hop culture.
Which you can create a Boston chapter if anybody's interested, because there is not one.
They've tried.
Oh.
Some people have tried. It's
a lot of work.
It
really
is,
a lot of work.
and the region's so disconnected, and there's
Yeah.
so much transiency.
Yeah.
The people kind of flow in and out, and new people come in. They've tried. There was a Worcester chapter that I helped to start up.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's still running or not. I was involved for maybe the first year, and then I ended up leaving that chapter for because I was growing and kind of doing my own thing.
So I don't know, but maybe I didn't look hard enough, to be honest.
Yeah,
Could be.
yeah. Maybe they stopped organizing, but there are communities, right, that are focused on the preservation of the culture, education about the culture, organizing politically, like through the culture, right? So like hosting a cipher, but having a benefit concert or doing a show or a fundraiser, and then supporting a program or organization that aligns. And so there's that stuff that's happening like all the time. But the stories aren't amplified. There's no Source magazine for that type of work. You either are in the community and because you know the person, or you kind of know some of the people, but otherwise you wouldn't know.
Yeah.
And so
there's much stuff going on.
Yeah, Martha Diaz's full-time job is like archiving the impact of hip hop, like in the education space, in like cultural spaces. And so it's a full-time job. You need a full-time team of researchers. Yeah. Because if you think about every in-school, like classroom teacher that's doing that type of work with hip hop, every after-school program that's doing that type of work with hip hop, every nonprofit or community organization, every business that didn't want to be a nonprofit but is having that type of work. You know what I mean? Like it's all, there's so much, to document, to tell the full story. And it's my peers that are doing that work too, right? It's my peers who are teaching in the class. It's my peers who are writing the research, leveraging their PhD dissertations, et cetera, who are writing books, writing curriculum. They're organizing conferences, right? And I've done all of those things in my career because I've seen other people do that.
Yeah.
And I was naturally doing that because hip hop was my way of, one, processing the world around me, but two, also connecting and relating with the people around me.
Yeah.
And so, being able to kind of translate that experience and that language for people to have an entry point into the culture has really been, I think, a dope thing. And when I was in the leadership development space, a lot of that is very corporate.
Yes.
It's very like,
oh my God,
you got to wear a suit and tie.
Yeah.
You got to, all this kind of stuff. And I remember sitting in one of my first sessions thinking, like, I don't really belong here. Like, there's doctors in my class, lawyers, like these business people. I don't really know. I'm the only community person here. Yeah. My mentor, Jim Tabucci, he was teaching, this class. It was called the Catalyst Program. It was run through the Sacramento Asian Chamber of Commerce. And Jim is a guy who's, probably been retired by the time he was 51. He brokered a deal where like HP bought Nokia, and like was responsible for a lot of their like Southeast Asian like commerce and like business. So he's like been around for a long time. He's seen a lot of things. And after the first class where I was completely kind of silent and like just observing, he said, if you're going to be in here, we need to hear your voice. And I told him, I was like, come on, like there's this person, they're a doctor, that person, this. And he said, yeah, but you know what you got that they don't got is a realistic view of what's happening in our community.
Yeah.
Like, they don't know where the projects are. They don't know what's happening with youth. They don't know what these parents' concerns are. They know the world from their viewpoint and perspective, but you can give people something that's tied to reality.
Yeah.
That represents a whole kind of people and a way of life that some folks can be disconnected from, even if they come from that.
Yeah.
When you progress in your career, like, you move out of the inner city and you move to the suburbs, you might, you know what I mean? Like, there's so many of these things that almost like detach you from, reality. And so I think it's one of those things where, whether you're in community as a teacher, artist, whoever, you understand what's happening with everyday people, and there's value in that.
Yeah.
And there's value in that when you show up for the policy conversation. There's value in that when you show up in the philanthropic circle and you tell people about the way that they're writing their grants and excluding certain folks, right, et cetera. So there's so much that can happen, but nobody's going to, like, give you a certificate and tell you to start.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there's no certification or no degree that's like, okay, you're ready. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like this mindset or this thing that has to be developed. And, that's why I was like, oh, like, we need to talk about, what leadership looks like in this hip hop kind of lens or perspective. We need to remix the way that people think about leadership development as a whole. A lot of times people think leadership is like something you have from birth.
Yeah.
If you don't got it, then you don't got it.
Yeah.
But in reality, it's a skill that can be practiced and developed and learned.
Just like everything else.
Right. And if you don't have people in your life who can support you in that development, then you're missing it.
Yeah.
But not a lot of people are looking at hip hop thinking, I need a hip hop mentor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They don't,
Yeah.
they think it's a throwaway thing or something that's just for youth culture or, and that kind of thing. But they don't see the way that hip hop can shape policy. They don't see the way that hip hop can transform philanthropy. They recognize some of the commerce, right?
Yeah.
And some of the business when it's good for other people and not good for people, right?
Yeah.
But it's rare that, people are thinking about hip hop leadership as this ability to transform all of these other kind of aspects about our society. And so it's at the time that I was writing, I was like, this is really necessary for right now.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that, when people read it, they start to get a sense of what's possible. And then they start to have the conversations themselves in their communities around, hey, like, what are your values? What do you believe in? Is this project being led by a certain set of values? Is this policy writing, like, what are the underlying values? How does this change if we are, really sticking true to certain things? And getting people to really start to have these conversations differently,
Yeah. So what, if you could describe hip hop leadership in one sentence, what would it be?
Hip hop leadership is the ability for people to process the world around them and recognize their agency and ability to transform and create new reality and new possibility. You don't have to be a hip hop artist to do that particular thing, but it's something that we can point to often in hip hop culture that happens and exists, that can show us what's possible for the rest of our society and world. And so hip hop leadership is it's a blueprint. It's a philosophy. It can be a teaching tool if you want it to be a teaching tool. But really, I think it's part of the pillars for what will reshape our society, and the way that we're moving and the way we're thinking about countries and who represents us and what represents us, et cetera, et cetera. It's rare that there's a culture that resonates, globally. across language, borders, differences, belief systems, spirituality, etc. Hip hop is one of those things that we can agree on as a planet.
Yeah.
And so I think diving into what it would mean to transform our world with some of these principles in mind would be a good start to, any of the change that we're trying to make.
Definitely. How do people sign up for the curriculum?
People can purchase the curriculum through my website. So we have an inquiry form because what people's need for curriculum is going to be different.
Yeah.
I had a teacher recently in Sacramento say, hey, I want to infuse your curriculum with my class that I'm teaching before you come out to do your keynote and master class. So can you send me one copy of your curriculum, like your teacher's guide and a student workbook, and we bundle it with the book and the album too. There are some people who are like, hey, I need actually your curriculum, but then copies of your student workbook for my entire, college class.
Yeah.
And so they're like, we need, books for everybody for 100 kids. We need student workbooks for 100 kids, and we need this many, teacher's guides for myself and for my TAs. And so that's why we have that inquiry form there.
Yeah.
It's not just like I can click one or whatever. It's you tell us what the order is. And we have relationships with Black-owned printers in Houston, where my publisher is based right now. She's from Roxbury.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she's from
That's
Boston, but she's like in Houston right now. Shout out to Des Polk and Destined to Shine Publishing. And so we work with those printers to print whatever those special orders are for people, and we get it shipped to them as soon as we can.
That's awesome. It can be as small as one person
and
as many as the sky's the limit.
And so I think it just depends on what people's needs
I'm
are.
kind of jealous that I didn't, or I'm regretful, not jealous, that I didn't buy the student handbook because of like, it's just like, it's fascinating. I love a deep dive into anything. And honestly, leadership is something that I feel like I'm lacking in. But I think anybody can learn from that. Like anybody can freshen up on those skills at any point in time.
Absolutely. One thing I'm working on for, is a leadership cohort for adult artists and creatives.
Oh, sign me up.
I got you. And it's because of that type of response. And so kind of, building what the experience would be, but also working around things like where is it going to happen? Like space is important, parking, transportation, and then the length of sessions also determines whether or not we need to have food present, you know what I mean? And things like that. And so after having facilitated a number of different like leadership cohort experiences previously, I know that, this is the kind of thing that sometimes like a nonprofit will take on or a grant will come and support, but hip hop leadership is not a nonprofit. Yeah. At least not yet. Yeah. And so, I think figuring out how that works so that people who want to dive deeper, we can dive deeper. Hip Hop Leadership's not the only book that I think people should be reading. There's a number of other books that I think would be really good. I won't give out the reading list right now, but there have been a number of books that have helped me in my own like leadership development that I think that when other artists have a chance to read these books and then apply the skills and the lessons learned into their craft, it'll make them so much better.
Yeah, it's so hard doing self-guided anything. Just even being a creative, continuing creating, let alone investing in yourself and your growth. But also doing that by yourself and not being able to talk about it with someone that's going through the same thing is like, that kind of environment is like so key.
Yeah. And the only reason I haven't launched this already is because of the cost that it would be for individual artists and creatives. And during this time, I don't think that they should bear the full weight of that, cost. I think, finding if it's a sponsor or a funder or somebody that's willing to like invest in that experience for artists and creatives, then I think that that's the way to go.
Yeah.
But it's also finding the right funder who believes in that work for adult artists and creatives. A lot of people who will do it for young people, but they have almost like given up on the development of like adults. And I'm like, no, we can't do that. Like we need it just as much as they need it.
Yeah.
You know,
it's so true, because maybe you, like me, I didn't start doing creative stuff till a couple years ago, and I don't know where to.
No, I get it. Look, and our world has changed a few times, right? Like
so many.
COVID, we needed a new way of like developing concepts and creating and sharing and all this kind of stuff, right? You know, with the presidential election and all this kind of stuff that's going on now, it's like our world is being remade and reshaped and the rules are changing right in front of us. So it's in these times where I'm like, this is really where we need to build almost like these brain trusts. Yeah. These like groups of people who are learning together, sharing ideas and experiences, and are developing themselves and developing each other. And so
the collaboration piece needs to happen even when you're not making money.
Yeah.
And people forget that.
Yeah. And my hope is that you know, I'd love for it to be like an in-person experience, but I also know that that may not be, you know, possible. So you might have to do like some virtual sessions. And then, I want to be able to also offer it, you know, kind of year after year. So that's some of the stuff that we're working on now, myself. And then there's a few other kind of people who are just, you know, some of my thought partners in this process.
Now, do you have albums that people can buy they're all on Bandcamp?
Yeah, people can go on Bandcamp right now and purchase the entire discography.
Awesome.
There are some fans and supporters of mine who've like joined my email list and things like that, who in the past have access to like the secret Google Drive folder where there's a bunch of like drafts and unreleased stuff and like videos of like all sorts of stuff. But if people are looking for the music and they just want to support the music, then they can go to my Bandcamp. Paul Willis is hiphop.bandcamp.com. There's a bunch of stuff that is on streaming platforms right now, but it's only up on streaming after I've made back what I invested into a project. That's my like big thing. And so Hip Hop Leadership is up on streaming platforms now, but if people want to support it, they can purchase the book. It comes with a QR code in the back of the book and a QR code for the lyrics, for the album and the lyrics. So that's where they can find that. And you'll never need a Spotify account. You'll never need Apple Music or anything to own the music. And back in the day, we used to get the CDs with the liner notes or the lyrics inside. So like, you know
Bring
what?
CDs back.
Yeah, I thought like, oh, it'd be great if people had these lyrics. And they could analyze, study it, break it down, etc. And so that was my way of like, it's not a CD, but it's kind of our new version of this.
And this app is new to me. I downloaded
Untitled?
it today. Yeah, Untitled. And I was going back to start the album over again, and I hit edit, and I was like, oh, whoa. So it'll let you edit?
Yeah, because you own it.
Oh, it's yours. That version is yours. So it's not like the public version you edit.
Right.
Oh, that's interesting.
So you can download it. You know what I mean? You can have it like the files live on your phone, all that kind of stuff. And that ownership piece is important to me.
Yeah, it
you
is.
know, and so I'm glad that people get to experience it in that way. But also, if they want to just like buy the album, they can go to the Bandcamp and buy it there. You can get everything else that I've released there as well, so you can do a deeper dive there. There are certain projects that are on Bandcamp that are not on streaming services, like my early mixtapes and things like that. So that's a fun bonus for visiting there. And then I'm trying to constantly stay on top of social media, share new work, share new projects, share new events, just different things that are going on.
Well, you were on live, and I missed it because I just saw it today.
Oh, last night.
Yeah.
At like 2:00 in the morning.
Was it really? Oh, yeah.
It was super late.
I was snoozing.
They tried to get it started, this live stream, with Crazy Bars, I've heard, which is a platform over maybe 330,000 followers. Ernie and then his team, Roan and a few other folks, they're based in Dallas, Texas, and they do this platform where they amplify people who they think are just incredible like MCs, rappers, and a lot of it is like skill based, very kind of technical raps and stuff like that. But artists can submit their song. They do kind of weekly listening sessions on Tuesdays. And then the best songs out of those sessions, they pull out and put into this like tournament of 64. And it's like song by song, they, have these randomized matchups and see if you can make it through all the way. And so last night, yesterday afternoon, they told me that they selected one of my songs and that it was going to be included in this tournament and that they were going to have their round of 64 last night. And so we almost made it through the first 32 matchups. I think it was like 29 matchups. There were some technical difficulties that like delayed the start by like 15 minutes or so. But yeah, we were on the live stream until almost 2:00 in the morning. Yeah, it was a mess.
I haven't seen 2:00 in the morning in a while.
Yeah, but people in real time can like give feedback.
Cool.
And can vote and say like, hey, we believe that this artist or that song should advance, and so Roan and Ernie, they each get a vote, but if they're ever split, then they look to the audience. I just thought it was a really cool experience and engagement.
Too. Like to have that many people watching you at once and you got to make a decision. And it's like, I couldn't do it. That's why I don't live stream.
No, and I'm not on a whole bunch of live streams or things like that, but my song did win its first round matchup.
Nice.
And so
which song was it?
Christmas Conscious.
Okay.
It was something I did with Matty Owens for his Christmas album where there's over 60 artists on that album.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's like 66 songs or something crazy like that.
Oh,
and
wow.
And all of the songs are Christmas, like a flip on the Christmas theme. And, R&B songs, trap Christmas, hit like strip club Christmas music. I'm just like, this is, kind of cool to see all these different takes. But for me, I was like, I'm kind of like torn about how I feel about Christmas. I think it's a great time for people to kind of be around their family and all this kind of stuff. But then there's also all this craziness happening in the world, and there's a mythology around Christmas and consumerism, and all. We don't have to get super deep into it.
No, I feel the same way about it.
But I thought, I was like, you know what, I'm going to put this into a song. And I had a conversation with Maddie. Somebody was complaining about one of the songs being like over the top or whatever. And I hopped in the chat to defend that artist and their ability to create and make it whatever they wanted to make it. And I was like, but if you need a Christmas, like a conscious Christmas song, that's me.
Yeah.
So we got in the studio. I never heard the beat until I arrived. Maddie played it for me. There was a breakdown in the middle of the beat that completely switched the vibe. And I had maybe half of a verse, and then I wrote the other part when I was in there. We recorded it. He mixed it. We mastered it like same day. And so it might have been like a 3-hour process, but it was the coolest thing. And then his videographer who was documenting the process, he was like, there's not another song on the album that sounds anything like this. Like none of them are political at all. Nothing. There's no other conscious record that's on this project. So can we shoot the music video? And I was like, sure, but I'm leaving town in like 3 days. He's like, great. Well, you got 2 days to memorize as much of the song as we can. And so we went out to Copley Square and we shot the music video 2 days after I recorded the song. I don't even think I knew all the words at that point. We just tried to do our best of
Did you wear a Santa
putting
hat?
clips together. I should have. I had this like light blue Roxbury, Massachusetts, hoodie on. But yeah, no, I should have found a Santa hat.
Yeah.
That would have been incredible. Next time.
Yeah. I did want to ask you, the album that comes with the book, is everyone on the album from Massachusetts?
Let me think about that.
Or at least the area?
Yes. The only exception might be Tongo on track number 4, Collaboration. But he was living in Chelsea at the time.
Yeah,
so like
it counts.
He's from, oh wow, wait a minute. Let me not mess this up. Is he from, he's been all over. He's a traveler.
Okay.
Tongo, it's funny. met him a long time ago in Worcester. He spent some time in like the South. I want to say Louisiana, maybe New Orleans. He's been out in Oakland. He was the poet laureate for the city of San Francisco.
Okay.
I think he might be in Detroit now. Like he's been like really all over. But for about maybe a year and a half or so, he had moved to Boston, and like Boston was his home base operation, specifically Chelsea. We got, connected, and I was working on a project, and I was like, hey, we just made something I thought you would sound great on, and got him in to do his thing. And so he came in and did his thing on the day that he was leaving Boston.
That's professional.
Yeah. It was like Brujas out of Worcester.
Yeah, I was so excited to hear her. Because
Yeah.
I only know her from social media, which I'm going to go to her, the Poets Cauldron event. With,
The Ursula Rucker?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Okay.
I'm so excited about that. And also I'm going to her art exhibit.
Yeah.
So that'll be fun. But
Bruna's one of my favorite people in life. And that was her first time on anybody's album.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my, she needs her own album.
She does.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And
I'm buying it.
And poetry albums, can win Grammys now.
Yeah.
And so that's his own kind of thing and experience. But Bruna's a great friend and is incredible. She's out in Worcester, Grateful Queen, Laura Cabrera, incredible MC, singer, a multiple genre, right? Does a lot of things with live bands out in Lawrence, Massachusetts. And so Queen will come and like rock some shows with me during the summertime and stuff like that. But yeah, it was a really kind of wide reaching group. A lot of the features are on a couple of tracks. The first track, Authenticity and Self-Expression, all of those features on that record are my students.
Oh, wow.
And
That's
the track
cool.
is 6 minutes and 17 seconds long.
And it doesn't feel like it, though.
No.
Because like I said, I listened to the whole thing.
We made that in class.
Really?
Yeah. Louis was the, he teaches like music production, with Beat the Odds, and which is another creative youth development nonprofit organization. He made the beat. We all heard it at the same time. I started writing. One of my students, Maceo, came up with the hook, half a verse, and then it just came together kind of like that.
Yeah.
And then the other big collaborative track is Community Building at the end. And, Aaron and Jill from the Cambridge Hip Hop Collective, and you got Red Shades, who's, legend, here in the Boston community, is doing a ton of work right now with like Grammy U and all that stuff. Terry Borderline just started the Mass Spirits nonprofit as a way to organize creatives to give them opportunities to create work together. And it's really dope.
People.
Educator. And he lives actually probably down the street from here. He's in Brockton. And so he's like not far from here at all. Who else do we have? We have Messiah Maru Khan of Pull Up Poetry, fame. He's an incredible poet, MC, and recently became a producer, started, producing music and stuff. And Ashanti Eva Davenport out of, Pawtucket, Rhode Island, but is constantly in Boston and really up and down, the Northeast. And so we had artists from really like the entire region.
I love that.
That were on this project, and most of the producers were Boston based, except for my music director Jeffrey Archie Jr. He's from Sacramento, California, and he sent me. He constantly is sending me beats.
Yeah.
But when he heard I was working on this project, there were a few that he sent me that he thought like would be really good for it. So
no, it's phenomenal.
Thank
Even
you.
if people don't feel the need to read the book, buy the album. But also read the book because it's not long and it's just full of insightful information, and I loved it. But also these are the things that people have skipped out on either their whole life or like, because I didn't experience community until I was in the military. And even then it was a forced community, and it there was still like the adaptability, obviously, of it, and we did a lot of volunteer work. But all that volunteer work was to make sure you put it on your annual review so that you could get promoted. So it wasn't like, it was not in the nature that I guess it should be, which is you're doing it because you should do it, and you find purpose in it, not because you were getting something out of it.
Right. Right.
And
when you give without that expectation of return.
Yeah. Which people have lost that. They always want to just be like, look what I did, you know, and sometimes that's not necessary. All the time it's not necessary.
Yeah, that's sometimes like a tricky situation too for folks who are constantly like in community spaces of like, I want to amplify my work so I can inspire more people to support it.
Yeah.
But I don't want to come across as somebody who's like, you know, exploiting, you know, somebody else's situation.
That's how I feel like this podcast is. Like, all I feel like is like, okay, who am I? I'm just somebody putting people on the mic and then clout shit. I feel like I am riding on everybody's coattails.
That's not true.
I know, but that's not true. But that's that's how I'm like, oh my God. Look at me.
That might be the voice inside your head, Molly, but I got to tell you, like, high quality podcasts that really care and really dive deep into artists and their stories and the projects that they're working on, that is a rare thing.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many podcasts, even hip-hop podcasts that are here in our city, that are here in our region, that are really focused on, like, clickbait.
Yeah.
We're trying to go viral.
Yeah.
As opposed to, like, let me amplify this person's work.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that
humanizing someone instead of commodifying them
that's
is
exactly
so important.
And there's such a nuance in it that people think, oh, well, even if we ask you this crazy question or whatever as like clickbait, then more people will see it. But it's really like, but those aren't the people that I want to, you know, participate in the work. No. And it's not that, you know, there's a time and place for everything. Like, I love my club music, my party music, my dance. Like, I can appreciate it all. But my music is for your 9 to 5.
Yeah.
You know, when you're out of work and you're ready to party and turn up, there are other people who I, you know, will press play on. But when we come to the interview and the conversation and this and that kind of stuff, I really want people who value, you know, what the craft is.
Yeah, the artistry
and who the person, you know, who the person is, because it informs the way that they create their craft.
But also that, like, listening to the words is just something that I love to, like, hip hop is something that you can either vibe to the beat and the hook, or you can just like dive deep into do a deep dive. And that, I think it's really cool because, you know, like we were talking about Kendrick earlier, like you can just vibe out, or you can look really deep into the story. And same with this album, and just all of hip hop is like that. You know,
well, not all of it is like that.
No, that's true.
There's some stuff that is just like, yo, we just want vibes and we don't want none of this that you got to say that is important. And
Little John isn't really.
well, Little John just did some music with Lil Russell.
Oh, he
right?
did.
And so so it's interesting because like that's another great example of somebody's like, oh man, you make anthems, you make party music, you make stuff like this, and also like Little John has lost a whole bunch of weight. He's like, you know, running and doing all this like workout stuff, and he's completely transformed his life from that crunk like party stuff to like, you know what I mean? Like working with, you know, different types of artists.
I love seeing people evolve.
Yeah.
And that's we need to see more of that. Because people think, oh, you're only this type of way, so you can only be this person.
Forever.
But we see that in the negative connotation, and that's amplified a lot. Like people like Nicki Minaj, for example.
Is there redemption for her? Yeah.
No.
I mean, maybe.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. There might not be. Some people might not feel like it's fine. I think that it's really hard to throw people away.
Yeah.
Right? Like whether we're talking about like criminal justice reform and prison reform and all that kind of stuff, mass incarceration, or like cancel culture.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I'm taking a class with D1 about hip hop and social change at Tufts University right now. And we just talked about the role of consumer and consumer activism.
Yeah.
And so this came up, this exact conversation came up in class. And one of the things that we talked about was, is the harm that an artist, may do or commit, is it repairable with their community or kind of the larger like societal context? And so another artist came was like Kanye. You know what I mean? It's like, is that harm repairable or not? Yeah. And I think the jury's still out for a lot of people, but some people are like hard no.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's kind of where I'm at right now. It's like I love the old Kanye, but this new Kanye I can't forgive, and it skews the way I view his old music.
Yeah. Who are you?
Yeah. And so some people might feel the same way about Nicki Minaj, but this idea that they can't continue to make music because of it. Yeah. It's like, no. I just don't have to support it. Right? Yeah. Like, that's the thing. It's like, you should still, like, make music, do your thing, like, earn your living, like, do what you need to do, figure that out for yourself. I am just going to turn my attention and my ear to somewhere else. Yeah. I'm not going to give you the support that maybe I once gave you.
And I'm not going to engage.
For other reasons. Right.
With the negativity either. Right. It's
so,
just now irrelevant.
Yeah, but that's our role. That's our job as consumers to change that.
Did you go to the Boston Music Awards?
I was in California, I think, when it happened.
Is that something that people show up to?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, that's a big deal.
Okay.
I'm typically back on the West Coast. Just reconnecting with family. Yeah. My fiance's family, was out in California, and a whole bunch of friends and, stuff going on during that time. And so it's usually time that I am away. And Boston Music Awards typically falls right around the date where I'm like, I'm flying out. And so I can't
just heard about it. I'm like, this is the thing. Like, I'm signed up to the Boston Globe, but I don't hear anything much about anything going on to the Globe. And I was hoping okay, well, maybe I need to do something. I don't know.
The Globe is cool. I love what Janae Osterheld is doing with, A Beautiful Resistance. And that whole kind of column and series of stories. There's a couple other writers at the Globe that I admire and I think are really great. But they don't have their finger or pulse on the music scene. Yeah. They have one music writer. Yeah. They have a couple other freelancers who will write articles, sometimes get published at the Globe, but they're not covering everything in the scene in that regard. They will talk about the Boston Music Awards and things like that, but there's so much other stuff that's happening that once you get tapped in with a few creatives in different disciplines, then it's oh, wait a minute, the world's kind of opening up.
It's wild.
Yeah.
It's wild.
There's I think in the hip hop space, there's certain artists you could follow, but that's a different world than what's happening with the DJs, than what's happening with the dance community. Yep. That's also different than what's happening in rock and roll or pop music.
Punk.
And
I didn't know there was a huge punk scene. There's ska music.
It's rare that they all kind of work together and collaborate in that way.
Maybe I need to do a website.
I
need to stop signing myself up for things.
No.
But I think it would be cool.
I think what you're doing now is an amazing thing because, again, you're amplifying stories and you're diving deep. And I just had this conversation with Pierre Moore and Ike Bana and a few other folks about the role of media and journalists in telling these stories truthfully, accurately, with care. Yeah. There are so many people who just don't care about, the culture and are looking for the clickbait. And so then you don't get, these in-depth, longer conversations that really have a lot of substance in them because people are looking for those moments.
Viral moments.
Yeah.
Really.
And I think it's great, but honestly, there's so much that can come out of, conversations like these. And then you'd be surprised about how people who you thought were connected, weren't connected, in that kind of way. And so, whether we're talking about so one of my students, Sanye, he won this big hip hop competition called Master of the Chamber.
That sounds cool.
Yeah, it's like the competition I'm in now, except live.
Yeah.
And so they have 64 artists over the course of 8 dates.
Where is that?
Right, they did their last one in New York.
Okay, so it's not Massachusetts necessarily, but
it is.
Oh,
they're Boston based, and their first couple of seasons or tournaments were primarily local places, but then they've started to travel a little bit, where they'll do like a chamber event in Lawrence or a chamber event in Brockton. So this is their first chamber event in New York City.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and the idea is you get 64 artists. There's 3 rounds. Your first round, you get 6 minutes as an artist to do whatever you want to do with it.
It's a long time.
It is. Maybe you get 2 songs off, maybe like 2 in a freestyle or something.
Yeah.
But you compete and a crowd decides if you win and move on to the next round. Second round, it's like broken down. You get 3 minutes and your opponent gets 3 minutes. So it's like a battle, but it's not like a battle rap situation. It's like you do your best song.
Yeah.
They respond to that by doing their best song. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so you do that twice. And in the final round, you only get 1 song, 1 performance to like convince the crowd that you should be the winner that night.
That's so cool. And it sounds like such a cinematic scene.
Oh, it's insane.
That you can only experience in person.
It is.
And people should.
The winner walks away with at least $500. And I say at least because people can put money in the pot to raise the stakes. And so I've seen people walk away with like $1,100 by winning one of the like initial tournaments of 8.
Yeah.
Then the 8 winners come together and they compete in like a grandmaster chamber where
I just love that title. That's so cool.
And so then the final 8 compete in the same night, and then the winner of that tournament becomes the grandmaster of the chamber and walks away with $5,000. And so the first 2 winners, and 3 out of the 4 finalists for the first 2 tournaments were all people who I worked with in class.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and they were super talented before. We got in class together, but to see them and to know their work in a more intimate way, I was like just a massive cheerleader for all of them, when it was time for them to kind of compete and do their thing. But Sanye, who wins this contest, wins $5,000, goes to Japan, comes back re-inspired, brand new music, right? It puts out this incredible thing. And then I asked the DJs around town, I'm like, so have you heard? Are you aware? Did you know? And they did not know. And I'm just like, come on. Like one of the people who won this giant competition that everybody should know, that you all should be paying attention to, but y'all did not know that this thing came out. So you'll be surprised. About the connectivity. Sometimes we'll take it for granted too. That you should already.
Yeah.
But
it's so hard too because
we can't assume.
We're so forced into this algorithmic society where if you don't log in at the right time or you just haven't interacted with their content in a while, you don't see their stuff, and it sucks.
Yeah. But that's my superpower too.
Yeah,
is to be a connector. So even after this, I'm gonna send you a whole bunch of pages. I'm gonna send you links, all stuff. I even prepared some stuff for Crazy Bars I've heard as a platform to look at artists in our region that they should potentially consider spotlighting.
Yeah.
And so I have a whole list of people who are under 25. I have another list of veteran artists from our scene. So I'll send you a bunch of stuff, and you probably know maybe most of these people, but there might be a few folks who
honestly,
are doing some dope
all through this area. Is there something that you want to leave people with, especially when it comes to trying to be hopeful or even motivated to be creative in our current timeline?
Your creativity and your art is necessary now more than ever. Your ability to create is the source for transformation and for growth and for possibility. When we can radically reimagine our world and society, and we have people who are willing to work towards that, then that action and that will has so much power. And you may not feel it, but it ripples out and impacts other people. And so because you don't know whose inspiration you're holding on to, just create. Because somebody's watching, somebody's witnessing, and they're then moved to do something themselves.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'll leave people with is
That's so important.
Yeah, just recognize how powerful it is. And you don't have to serve anybody's agenda. You don't have to make things that are outside of yourself, right? But just the simple act of I'm going to create for me, because maybe it is healing, maybe it's therapy, maybe it's whatever it is. That simple act will inspire and ripple out to really transform other people's lives as well.
I needed to hear that. So this was selfishly for me, but everyone else gets to hear it now too. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much for this awesome conversation. I'm sure this always happens after, but I know I'm going to have like 1,000 more questions.
Oh, I'm with it. I'm with it. We're locked in now.
Yeah. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Check the show notes on where to find Paul and all of his works, as well as the mentioned artists and organizations within the episode. Paul, thank you again so much for being a part of the show, and I look forward to seeing what you do in the future. And until next time, you guys, I'll see you later. Bye.